family. This is Jabari Osaze and the Queen Anika Daniels Osaze, Dr. Queen Anika Daniels Osaze. And I just want to salute the Black Ice TV 7 family and let you know that we just got out of an amazing event, the Sonetta TV Awards. And so you can't celebrate Sonetta here in the US without celebrating the equivalent of Sonetta in the UK, Black Ice TV 7. So I'm pleased to speak to our brothers and sisters across the waters.
Government and fry black, brown, red, and yellow people, and that would be their ultimate objective. This was not a coup because coups require power. Coups require guns. Coups don't take place in an advanced capitalist country unless sections of the people that run the country support it. And one thing these white boys who are running the country right now is not supporting is taking away their goodies, which is the nation state, which is the basis for their wealth. They're not. So right now, the head of the House, of the Senate, McConnell, is being pressured by big business to indict Trump. They want him indicted. And the reason is they backed him once he got into office. He got in without any corporate support. None, except for a few. Corporations did not get him in. He had no money when he got elected in 2016. They benefited from it. But now he's gone too far. The donor class has said, dump him. So we'll see what happens to Trump. But that's the overall thing. But what I would say is that movement ain't the most important thing. It's the movement we have on the ground. I really want to say this about dispossession. The election of Barack Obama led them to have a real sense of dispossession, because you got a black man occupying what is considered to be the most powerful position in the world. It's not. Corporations run the place. But as far as they're concerned, that was like being castrated, seeing him every day in the White House. So that has been like a major bone of contention. But the other thing is, don't underestimate this. Right now, the motion that blacks have put forward is stronger than the motion that whites have gone, and it has white support. And the question is, what do we do to build on that? What do we do to advise people who are in Black Lives Matter and the other? And Jay Smalls is right. It wasn't just Black Lives Matter. In fact, it wasn't any of those groups when it kicked off. It was just angry Black folks. Mm-hmm. The most organized groups could give it definition. And so the question is, what input do activists have, not just in Black Lives Matter, into their motion, into what those demands should be, not only in the White House and in, you know, the legislative assemblies, but in the streets? What are those? What kind of organizing we need to do? And I'm proud of this group because they play from the best of the Black playbook, Black political playbook. So yeah, that's it.
Okay, it's a very comprehensive answer. So our next, Professor Small, so what's your take on it? Because and after this, I've got one more question still.
I'd have to be sent to the insane asylum to try to follow that with any kind of faith. I think Obama laid it out as comprehensively. He covered all bases. That was one of the most comprehensive descriptions, which I fully agree with, I've ever heard. So I support what has already been said.
Okay, that's great. So again, Sister Kochi Chakalia, anything to add?
Same thing. And I want to add to what Oba said, because we really have to be careful and start looking at this anti-terrorism information and act that's coming out, because the reality is America, racism likes to pretend that the enemy is Black, brown, Muslim, communist, socialist, but America's enemy is Caucasian, capitalist, Christians. The Capitol was full of Christian, Caucasian capitalists. That's the enemy. But the Terrorist Act, I'm sure, is not going to identify any of those groups. They're not going to be going after white Christians, Caucasians, or white capitalists. No, they're going to be looking again at what? Communists, socialists, Muslims, Black. That's not the problem. But that's the confusion that racism gives us, and too many of us listen, accept, repeat, and defend it. So we really have to be prepared to analyze what's going on, to stop it as much as we can, and most of all, we have got to get organized. Please, we've got to get organized, because those people, while we're on this discussion, they're planning. That you think they just left the Capitol and they said, okay, we're done now? No, they are planning. They are always planning. And we take it for granted simply because we don't see them in the media. They have been here since 1865, and America has done nothing except enable and support and protect them since 1865. What's happening to them now? We have to be vigilant with this anti-terrorism act and make sure that they address the real terrorists in this country. Caucasian, Christian, capitalists. Timothy McVeigh, Terry Nichols, the Dravidian group, and we can go on and on. They're all Christian, Caucasian, capitalists. So make sure we keep an eye on this anti-terrorism legislation that would be coming out, because if it's not coming out against racist, Caucasian capitalists, we're going to be in trouble again. Stay focused. They are planning. We have to always be planning and organizing as well.
Okay.
Let me make a comment just in the space of this question that I've been making for the last year. And I've been doing it for the last 4 decades and getting attacked by my own people. You know, when I was at City College, I would set up the tables with the applications to the police department and the fire departments and working with the Vulcans and the others. And the brothers just went presumed. I advocate that we should join the military and get trained. We're going to leave the training skills to your enemy. I still advocate that those of us who are not trained when we come out of high school, are not skilled enough to go to college, need to join the damn military. You can't be no worse enemy of our people than you are now. In the last 30 years, we've killed over 300,000 of our own people. So please stop that as an excuse. I say the best way to defeat the police is to become the police. Let's take them over. Let's form a study group with civil service exams in our community, studying in the 9th grade, teach our kids to pass the sanitation design the exams, police exam, fire exam, and EMS exams. Let's take over the primary institutions that run our communities. Those are the 2 things I've been recommending, and more aggressively over the last 3-4 months. And I'm still recommending that that is a good way forward. That beats being in the penitentiary and having to turn to selling drugs and murder your people as the only alternative to surviving the streets you live on. And there is advantage. I served in the military, Oba served in the military. There is a lot of advantage. There's a disciplining you'll get. Weapon use and weapon expertise. Because many of us who were in the movement in the 60s, most people didn't know we were just back from Vietnam. Many of us was in the war and refused to fight in Vietnam. Many of those in the 50s were just back from the Second World War. They were the skilled, trained, armed men, proficient with weapons in our community. We didn't lose our mind or lose our race because we went in the military, just like nobody else does. The Latinos are using it very well and very strategically, okay? And when it comes to policing, if I'm going to have a police force in my community, and you are going to have one in America, then I want it black. Simple as that, or as black as it can be. And I think we need to focus on that. And I've been saying it over the last couple of months, and I'm going to escalate that. You want to take over your community, you got to take over economic, politics, and culture. Okay? If you're not thinking economic, politics, and culture, controlling land, labor, and resources where you have, because I don't think we need nobody to give us more land. We got enough land. We need to have a contiguous relationship between the lands we have. Nobody need to give us no money. We got money. But we don't control the institutions where we are. And so our enemies come into our majority black community and control our daily lives by controlling the institutions where we are.
Okay. So just before I go to the last question coming up, just to give Elder Pepperkai, would you like to say anything on that last point?
Unmute.
Yeah. Okay, you're off.
Yeah, just a few words. And those few words are organize now or perish. Because the clan, they're not no longer riding on horses and with sheets covered over the backs. They're in the police, they're in the military, they're in the strategic places. And that's what the Smart said. But we must remember who we are.
I agree. Because part of being a part of military and police, especially police, because we can get access to the intelligence apparatus and the intelligent information flow, just like they're getting it on us. You know.
And as mentioned before, good book, Neely, Spook Who Sat by the Door. Good book to read. I remember when that movie came out in the United States, and 3 days later they eliminated it across the country. Took it out of every theater across the country. It was too powerful, and it still is. Same message.
Well, they've taken a plate from that book. That's where the Klan's at. The Klan's in the police department. You know, the militias are in the police department. They're the EMS worker that come to your house when you're sick.
That's
They're the
right.
firemen that come to your house and let it burn down.
Yeah.
You know, we need to take those institutions back. Control the real estate we live on. Economic, politics, and culture. Land, labor, and resources.
Okay, so as we're coming to a close shortly, this is a final question I'd like to put to the panel. And what do you think of the Biden-Harris policy, would be the Biden-Harris policy towards Africa? What do you think there will be? Do you think there would be a situation they had under Obama when there was a lot of expectation and it turned out to not to be realized?
Well, let me start, and I know Oba has looked at this question, and I'm sure I see Kujichagulia smiling since you looked at this question. Right now, America's policy towards Africa is that of total imperialism, and militarism. I remember the last thing Obama did when he was leaving the White House was sign the order that we could invade Somalia. He couldn't walk out without doing that because that was the assignment. Right now, Africom is fully functional. The American military in Africa is fully functional. Second in numbers now only to the French military in Africa. And the French military in Africa is larger than the French military in France. Secondly, we use Africa as a launching base for most of our drones. I think 13 to 14 of those bases are still there. It is the American troops that's training the Fulanis and the Hausas that's causing the turmoil in now Nigeria, Cameroon, and Niger. There's a lot. You remember when the young black soldier got killed and nobody could explain what the hell he was doing in Niger? They got exposed, and he probably got killed because he probably wouldn't go on. He probably flipped to the black side and they took him out. Because they never said what killed that young man. But they're there. I remember the Zbigniew Brzezinski paper, the white paper written under Jimmy Carter, then he was the National Security Advisor or something. And he said the one thing that America policy towards Africa, the one most critical thing, was that African Americans and Africans should never be allowed to unite politically, culturally, and economically. That is the policy of the United States of America till this day. The other policy is that the American corporate imperialist marauders are still in Africa, in particular and especially in the Congo. And it has been the American government who have been training these deadly militias. It's their mercenaries they've hired, which are ex-American servicemen, to do it. And so even when the Congo voted to remove Kabila, it was America that stepped in and forced a co-presidency on the new government of the Congo, keeping Kabila in there. So we have to say and speak to and with the African Union. And the African Union is going to have to stop coming to America like beggars. Okay? And I know from a lot of the phone calls coming back and forth right now, everybody's looking to see what can I get, what can I get? We need to say we need a withdrawal of American imperialist corporate occupation of Africa in every country. And we need a withdrawal of your partnership. When Britain left the European Union, because Britain wanted to be back in the catbird seat in terms of colonialism and imperialism. And they couldn't make that work, having to split with the rest of Europe. And they really think they can come back into Africa and take their high space. That's why they did what they did to Mugabe. The government in Ghana, as smooth as Ghana is going, this government is backed by the Oppenheimer group out of South Africa. That's a link to the Bank of England and the Rothschild. So we have to be clear that it cannot be imperialism as usual in Africa. That you cannot come in and put in your militarists and then create with they have a thing called the USAID, United States Aid, but it's a front for the CIA. But what they do, they train African youth. They give out scholarships, and then they bring them to America for lectures and other stuff. So they're training right in your face the insurgency that looks like you. So there's a lot of things we've got to look at. But the primary one is that the relationship of imperialism and exploitation backed by American intelligence and military must end in Africa. And there must be a transparency about any relationship we have with Africa. And not all of these clandestine agencies acting as NGOs, dominating undergirding and corrupting our society.
Okay, that's great. I'd like to turn now to Sister Kuchichakalia. So what's your take on American policies towards Africa?
Well, Dr. Smalls just said it perfectly. They are determined to make sure that we never unite as one group of people. And a lot of us have begun to believe that insanity and do our best not to unite. In terms of looking towards the Biden administration or any administration ever, even if we have a Black president and a Black vice president, America is still America.
Mm.
The things that America wants to perpetuate and protect, racism, capitalism, white psychopathy, all these things aren't going to change, irrespective, of the president or vice president. The people aren't going to change anything. They're just the mouthpiece. So it doesn't matter who is the president. It doesn't matter who the vice president is. America's policies towards Africa will not change. That's what has to be stopped. The names that we talk about of who occupies the seat in the White House, that's not who has the power to change things. The entire American government, the infrastructure, and most of all, the corporations that tell the CIA and the FBI and all these organizations what they should focus upon, those are the crucial points that we need to look at. And removing those corporations, those imperialists from Africa, is crucial in that, because again, that is all our land. We need to get them out. So looking at Biden and Harris to do that is, I think, very naive. That's something we have the power to do if we organize to do it. We have more power to get that done than they do. That's not their job. Their job is to protect America. They must do that. They took that oath to protect America and America's interest. And America's interest is always capitalism and overseas imperialism and eventually globalism. So if you're in office, you protected those oaths. That means it's up to us to organize, to get solidify our options, our program, and move forward on that objective. We need to be looking at what we should be doing, what we can do. In 4 more years, we'll be talking about other names. Will those issues still be there? Yes. Racism will still be here. Imperialism will still be here. Globalism will still be here. Don't get caught up on the individuals. We need to be looking at these issues, what we can do to eradicate those issues. We need to be organizing.
Okay. And I'd just like to turn to Elder Pepperkai. Now you got a view on that question?
Well, again, brothers and my sister, not a lot to add from what has been said by Professor Small and our sister. And it's simply this, that Africa produced the resources that drives the entire planet. Mm-hmm. America is getting weaker and they're going down, but they're not just going to give up. It's like a kick from a dying horse. They'll still be there, exerting the power and grabbing those resources. And as the sister said, whoever is president or vice president, their job, their responsibility is to ensure that America has got access to all that material. And the question is, what do we do to protect our own resources? All leaders believe that they're small boys, beggars, hoping and praying, instead of taking responsibility of our homeland. So, as the sister rightfully said, it's not what we expect. That be foolish on our part. It's what we must do to secure our own future, our own resources.
Okay, and finally, just to sum up, I'd like to turn now to Dr. Obati Shaka. The same, what's your take on that question?
Well, as a Pan-Africanist most of my life, and one that's been involved in African work, working in African villages in Tanzania, African liberation support work, and seeing that there's a connection between the struggle of Africans in the U.S., the struggles of Africans on the continent, the struggle of Africans in the world. So I would say a number of things that a lot of this has got to do with what our movements do and the pressure that our movements bring to bear on the system in this country to produce change. One of them is movements, including Black Lives Matter, should eventually look at, and other movements, developing an international agenda. And one of those international agendas, Professor Smalls has already referred to, which is demilitarize African policy in Africa. Take all military bases, all military presence out of Africa. Take it out. Of course, in some ways, this is actually in America's interest, because actually America's pursuing a very stupid policy in Africa. And in some ways, stupid policies, while it hurts Africa, it also hurts America. Chinese are showing you the smart way is to go economic. You know, the smart way is to bring in development and make it look like it's in Africa's interest, while you are taking out a whole lot of resources at the same time. That's a smart way. And now China has a military base in Africa, and that should be removed. The second one is neoliberalism is at the heart of what's really doing in people around the world, which is privatizing everything in sight. So in Africa, that took the form of structural adjustment. And so in the 80s, African countries were told, if you're going to get aid, you need to sell off your resources and sell them off cheap. I was in Ghana in the 80s, and the diamond, the gold mines in Ghana were being run by the British. I asked a cab driver, what do you think of that? He said, well, the people here are dishonest. I said, yeah, you think that these white people are? You know what I mean? So those kinds of things, structural adjustment, took Africans out of free medical care, free education, providing services to the people, and at the same time delivering the resources to the rich. Now the World Bank and International Monetary Fund is saying that was a mistake. It wasn't a mistake. Now it produced the desired results. Everybody sees it. So now they want to move to another level. Pull it out. This is the big thing that I think our policy should be directed at. The biggest problem in Africa is that when Africa became independent, it inherited the European nation state model, and it never questioned it. We use the Marxist analysis and we'll say neocolonialism problem, which is correct. There is indirect economic control that is still operating all over the world and in Africa. But one reason it can operate is that Africa, because of the disruption of its culture through the slave trade and colonialism, lost confidence in itself, especially African leaders, to the point that they inherited a model for ruling their country that they never even questioned. And even our best leaders never questioned it. Uma didn't, Nyerere didn't. And I think Nyerere had the best answers for Africa, but he never questioned that nation state model. That nation state model killed the Zujima villages, because the Africans who were working with Nyerere, in 1967, I met Nyerere. We had a meeting for a couple hours outside of his home. Pan-African People's Organization was working to set up some programs in Tanzania, and it was the best set of meetings I've ever had with anybody. Nyerere was clear, humble, smart, and was working for Africa's development. And he had Ujima villages, and those villages were building up an agricultural base for the economy, putting in healthcare, putting in schools, all free, and at the same time agriculture and building housing. And this was being done in a successful way. The leadership around Nyerere, African leaders undermined it, not Nyerere. And when I met with Nyerere, he said, I could have had this country rule with the help of whites, but I wanted to prove that blacks could rule. But these blacks that ruled were Bwana Kubwa mentality, big shot. Bwana Kubwa means the big shot. They had the idea that people didn't know anything. And they believed really only white people did. And so that Ujamaa village thing was frustrated in part by that misleadership and in part by external forces, IMF, World Bank, all these things that they relied on for external funding. But they could have run that economy without those national leaders. In fact, they would have done better without a nation state if it had to be a European model, because the European nation state model is one designed to take the wealth out of Africa, stick some of it in the pocket of the elite, but most of it send it abroad to your colonial masters, your neo-colonial masters, and it is maintained through force and violence. So my point is this: our policies towards Africa, as African people in the diaspora, and Africans on the continent, as they become aware of this, should be based on dismantling that model without saying so.
And
one of the ways you dismantle this model to begin with is this country is for democracy. We should be for that. It's just a word we should put in front of it: African democracy. And this is called the perfect strategy, by the way. It's a hard one to argue against. And the way you argue it is this: in order for this nation state to operate for us, one of the things that has to happen is we have to have a sense where the African decision-making system is put back in play. It already exists in the villages. That's consensus. The villages in many parts of Africa operate on that. That's the African decision-making model. At the national level, when the nation's large, you have to be creative in how that works. Traditional African systems had consensus of councils, and they were representative of the best people who were on the national council. So we have to adapt that to today. That's work for people on the continent, figure out how they do that, take their own traditions and update them. But the key point is this: African women must be empowered. Not only African women, but conscious and just African women, just as the men who are empowered must be conscious and just African men. By the way, that's in my book. The mother principle is called twin lineal democracies. Sheikh Anta Diop called it bicameral nations. Not just male-female balance, but just male-female balance.
That's right.
And on key decisions, the people make the decisions. Now let Africa do that. You don't even have to say that. But the overall policy, ours should be about that. And the first one is empowering the people. Policies to empower the people. And right now, you raise it around African women. And I'm trying to oppose that one. And that should be something that comes from the grassroots. And that's one that's put on the government. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of other stuff, but one other, cultural renaissance. We need a new African cultural renaissance in this country. We had a Afrocentric cultural renaissance in the 80s and 90s. We need to continue that, but we need a new African cultural renaissance where we raise up the best features of our culture. That needs to be tied into an African cultural renaissance, where we talk about what are the best features of each of our cultures that we need to draw from, and how can we apply it? And that needs to be dialogues and whatnot, but it needs to be put into application in our communities, because we need to rebuild our communities. Africa's flat on its back, and it needs rebuilding as well. There's a lot of other stuff, but that's some of it.
Right. Unfortunately, we have come to an end. Time's more or less beaten us. But I'd just like to say it's been an honor and a pleasure today to have had these brilliant minds with us. Professor Small, Dr. Shaka, and Sister Kuji Chakalia. And on behalf of the PSCM,
Pepper Guy, now you talk like he ain't a brilliant mind. Pepper Guy,
our elder.
Yes, Pepper Guy Well, Pepper Kai knows he's included because Pepper Kai is on the inside.
I know.
So Pepper Kai, just to say to people, he's a brother was one of the founder members of the Pan-African Congress movement when it started in 1974. As people know, he was one of the co-founders of Head Start Bookshop, based in London, that ran for many, many years. And now he's the founder of the Marma Arts Center, which is still, and he's still the largest book distributor in this country, probably in Europe. So we can see well over 40 years, he's been, deep in the struggle, and he's helped the minds of so many African people here in London and throughout the UK and throughout many other countries as well. So Elder Pepper Kai, as you know, the PSCM owes you a lot, and the PSCM always honor you and love you. And we know you'll keep going from strength to strength. Yes, I'll come through.
Yeah, just one quick point, Brother Tasha. No, Brother Shaka mentioned just one book, but Brother Shaka has written 5 books. The Integration Chapter Generation Gap.
Oh, I love that one.
In fact, I need to read it because I have a lot of problem with the younger brothers and sisters. So I must read this myself. In fact, right here in Britain, in the Black Studies program, this book is one of the main book, along with the 2nd volume. Now, his other book, The Political Legacy of Malcolm X, is out of print, but that will be coming back soon. But I just wanted to draw one point with Professor Small. Professor Small, this is a plea. We're begging you, we're asking you to bring one book out, and that is about the Nicene Conference.
Oh.
Because we need to understand how this whole Christian farad came into existence.
Yes.
And dominate and cripple our minds. Because we're talking about God in charge, Jesus Christ gonna do this, all heap of nonsense. And we wanted to bring clarity in a grassroots way, so we understand how this whole system of white dominance impact on our mind and turn us upside down and turn us crazy. And we know that you have the knowledge, all the understanding that you can put together to give our people a way out of this madness that we find ourselves in. So we're charging you with that responsibility. It's light work for you. We know you have a lot to do, but put that on your agenda.
I would love to see that.
Do it.
Please.
I actually am working on something, and it's going to include the genesis of what we call Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. And it's going to be called African Sacred Science. But it's going to take some time. So I'm going to subscribe transcribing a lot of my lectures now. They just begun 2 weeks ago that I've done on that subject over the years. So hopefully by summer, should be done.
Oh, great.
Glad to hear, my brother. Glad to hear.
Thank you.
I can go to my bed happy.
I don't want you going to no bed right now, Pepper Guy. Stick around, because we still need you,
Okay. So once again, I'd like to thank all those who tuned in today, and I'm sure you have had a true masterclass. And PSCM will endeavor to keep bringing you this quality and standard of brothers and sisters who are at the top of their game. We have been doing it for over 45 years, and we will continue to do it. So Dr. Shaka, Professor Small, and Sister Kuti Chakalia, like I'm saying, in your case, Kuti Chakalia, this is just a start of a great journey. We were hoping to do a lot more with you, because we do put on major meetings. So you'll be hearing from us again. Don't worry about it. So As we come to an end now, it is our tradition to end like how we start. So I'd like to call upon Ndugri Mani to change the vibration in ending this meeting for us.
Okay. Asante Nisana, Ndugu Tahaka has said everything regarding the respect and the masterclass that we just received. And so I couldn't add more. And about our debt of unpayable debt to MZ Pepperkai, and we still learn from and still grow with. So we began the Mabadiliko Ya Nishati, and we'll end the ritual. So we'll bring it to a close. We opened the ritual, and now we'll close it. So, Ndugu, I'm going to share my screen.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, let me know when everyone can see that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, Asante Sana. Okay, so in the same way that we opened up the ritual and understanding that we are one vibration with the all. The all is expressed in multiple ways. And as Baba Smalls has taught us, that we are divine beings having a divine human experience. And that vibration, we are one with all things. And we can call upon that power in all aspects, in all dimensions, in all times. There is no time. There is only the divine presence now that we can call upon, and call upon that energy and power. And as Dada Kujikaguya was saying that, and also as MZ Tashaka was saying, that we don't understand our own power. And these rituals and this way of being, as I said, it's not spirituality, it's a way of being, it's a way of life, is calling upon that power, is being comfortable with that power and understanding it and being consciously able to draw upon it. That's our magic. Our magic is simply understanding ourselves and understanding our power and being able to call upon it. So in the same way that we opened, we're now going to be one with the vibration. And the spirit tells me to ring the triangle chime again, that spiritual object and shape. We'll ring it 8 times. 8 for it spiritually means eternity. It also means power and protection. And giving birth from that supreme darkness. So we're going to ring it 8 times. We'll allow the vibration to go around us, through us, and over us. But at the same time, we'll be thinking of gratitude and recognition of the all that we connected with. There's always part of us. That is us. Of the powers, aspects of the Creator that underpin all things. And the ancestors that we call who in our presence. And we're asking now that they take our objectives and our intentions. Everything comes from intention. We must act. When we act, we take a step towards the ancestors and they take 10 towards us. By coming together as a spiritual act, by having the intention, we ask that they take their intentions to their realms and help them to manifest. But we do so with thanks and appreciation as we bring this gathering to an end through the ritual in fraternal love and peace. So I'll ring it 8 times. Sit straight to wherever you are, feet flat on the floor, palm of your hands on your thighs. Breathe deeply and allow the vibration to resonate with you. Okay, and I'll begin and counting Kiswahili to keep time. Moja. Mbili. Tatu. Nne. Tano. Sita. Saba. Nane. So it's a vibration 8 times for power and coming into our own power. We now use the vibration of our voice again to state the affirmation and words of power on screen. So we bring them into manifestation and invoke them from within ourselves. So thus, please follow after me. Nguvu zote.
Nguvu zote.
Kwa watu wetu.
Kwa watu wetu.
Mapenzi ya wote.
Mapenzi ya wote.
Ni mapenzi yetu.
Ni
mapenzi yetu.
Hakuna mwanzo.
Hakuna mwanzo.
Na hakuna mwisho.
Na
hakuna mwisho.
And in the Kemetic, Anuk, Amen.
Anuk,
Amen.
All power to our people. The will of the all is our will. There is no beginning and there is no end. I am. Amen. Asanteni sana, Jamal. Thanks very much, family.
Okay, asante sana, ndugu Imani, for that. And once again, I'd like to thank Professor Small, Obati Shaka, and Sister Kojichaka Leah for being with us today. And also, I'd like to thank all those who tuned in today. And, because we thank you for your support. You're here every week with us. So thank you again for being with us today. So until next week, when we'll be back again with another dynamic, interesting presentation, I bid all watching Kwaheri.
Black Ice TV number 7 is the place you go. Peace to the family, Black Ice TV. You already know what it is. Minister Yankee, fully